Hey guys, welcome back to the boat build. Last video you guys saw, we were finishing up the exterior paint. All done with that. Looks beautiful. I had the chance to flip the boat over and get it back right side up. I also added my tongue. Sorry I didn't record that. It was just a little time here and there that I was able to work on it, so I didn't even bother pulling out the camera. The extended tongue is on there. It's a 10-foot section, galvanized square tubing. I just added it on, pulled my old tongue off, and then it bolted right up. And then right now I'm ordered some keel rollers and then a bow roller for the front. I'm gonna try to figure out some way to extend that bracket for the bow. It's because my last boat was a V-hull. This is a semi-V. It's more flat and it doesn't come up as high as the V-hull, the deep V that I had. So I'm just gonna work on that a little bit later on. Try to figure out what I can do with that. Probably get my buddy to weld it, but we'll see. As for today, we're gonna try to get started on the subfloor. The subfloor has to get in. We're gonna pick up some plywood at the lumber yard, and then just cut it up just so it fits into the subfloor. I'm gonna use leftover pink foam for my last boat. This 1 inch actually fits perfectly in between all the rails that go the cross beams on the boat, and so they're all 1 inch high. So this is 1 inch pink foam. I'm gonna lay these on the bottom, and then the subfloor is gonna go over this. And then after we get that subfloor in, I'm not gonna resin coat it just yet. I have it in there, set it in there, and then measure up all the angled aluminum, and we're gonna get started on the framing for the angled aluminum. After that, then we'll go back, take the framing out, and then we'll resin coat the floor and put the framing back on top of that, and then we can start it on the top deck. But yeah, we still got quite a ways to go. Thank you for joining us, going on this journey with us, and we'll get started. So I picked up some 1/2 inch plywood from the lumber yard for the subfloor. I'm going to start by laying it inside the boat and mark the beams that run across the boat and up the sides. Now that I have it on my workbench, I'm going to use a hole saw to make the initial cuts, then going in with the jigsaw to cut out the pieces. And then we flip it over and do the other side. Now we will set the plywood back in and see how it fits. It was still tight, so I took the jigsaw and widened the notches. Second test fit was much better. But I'm gonna cut out the corners from the front pieces because the boat sort of tapers upwards here. Now I'm going to sand down the edges where we cut to make it smooth. So now, before placing the subfloor in, I'm gonna level the boat and then use the leveling tool to lay out the pink foam and make sure that it's level across. Now that the subfloor is in, we'll start outlining where the framing will mount onto it. So I'm going to start with this 10-foot section of 1/8 inch angle aluminum and cut it in half. These two pieces will be the main rails going down the center of the boat. I'm just measuring to make sure they are centered and straight. Now I'm cutting the cross pieces of angle aluminum to connect the framing together. So, because a lot of my material is being recycled from my last build, I'm going to use the angle grinder to grind down the paint. And then I got to drill out any old rivets and riv nuts. Now, I'm going to mount the angled aluminum onto the plywood so I can start building the framing up. I bought some stainless steel hardware and we'll use that to mount everything. I'm grinding more pieces of this 1x3 inch aluminum square tubing, and I'll use this for the bow section of the deck. I'll mount these using aluminum rivets, and I really recommend getting an electric rivet gun to save you energy and time. I cut some pieces of angled aluminum to use as L brackets to rivet my aluminum together. I'm gonna cut the top bow piece to frame the bow mount area for my trolling motor. As you can see, I only had an angle grinder to cut all my aluminum, and it took so much time. Now I am putting the finishing touches on the bow bracket. Alright guys, so I was able to borrow a miter saw and an aluminum blade for it, and this is 10 times easier than what I was doing. If you have access to a miter saw, I really recommend it. I was spending 5 minutes for one cut. Now I can do that within like 10 seconds. So I definitely would recommend this, especially if you gotta do multiple cuts, and it is definitely a lot cleaner. So if you can get a miter saw, definitely get one. Within 15 minutes, I was able to cut 6 beams and 30 L brackets. This would have taken me a whole day with the angle grinder. So now I'm going in and riveting the 1x3 beams into the angled aluminum on the bottom and on top. I'm going to measure and cut more angled aluminum for the cross beams on the top part of the frame. Here, I'm cutting some more angled aluminum, which will run from the center frame to the angled aluminum, which will be riveted to the side of the boat. I'm going to mock up the live well to start framing around it as well. Alright guys, welcome back. Haven't filmed in a little bit, so might be seeing some new things here. So first, mounted some of these brackets here on the bottom, and pretty much that's just going to be a location for me to mount a piece of plywood here. So I have a little piece of plywood. We'll mount that on top here. It's going to cover the plumbing for the live well and the bilge pump. And then on top of that, we're going to put the gas tank. Did create a little hatch here just so I can lift up and get to these hoses if I need to. If anything goes wrong, I have access there. In addition to that, added some pieces of angled aluminum on the side here. That's just going to help support the back decking. And then in addition, I do have my rear transom building out of aluminum, some 1 1/4 inch aluminum square tubing, and just gonna have I'm gonna get that welded and then have a plate go over those square tubing just to secure it. It took me a while to contemplate whether or not I wanted to do wood, composite, or aluminum transom. I'm just gonna go with the aluminum transom. I just have some extra material, so I'm gonna use that. And yeah, so today, right now, I'm gonna get that piece of plywood, set it in here. I already resin coated it. That's ready to get in here. mount these. I'm gonna use these scrap pieces of angled aluminum just to just gonna be the outline for the hatch to open up to this stuff here. So I'll mount these in there, and then mount that plywood in. On that, I built a piece of framing to hold this back section of the platform. So all that's ready to just get mounted in here. So let's wait and watch. Alright, so here's pieces of plywood. That's the hatch. This is the bottom piece. This is the bottom side of it. Just gonna have this in here. Okay, so now that the framing is complete, we can get started on the next steps. I need to get the transom mount welded and ready for the motor. Then I can start cutting the wood for the top deck and start resin coating, run my electrical wiring, pour foam, and install the ortho deck. All right, so the framing is complete, and I just want to leave you guys with 3 things that I learned that I wish I knew before I made this framing build. So first thing is definitely want one of these. I had this on my last build, but I'm just gonna throw this in there for you guys. Definitely want to get an electric rivet gun. Okay, it's gonna help you so much. And this model is cool because it'll catch all the rivets, the ends of the rivets for you in a cup. Okay, so you just fill that up and then dispose it. I've seen some other ones where it shoots it and then the rivet, the stem just comes out. You gotta pick them up. So this is a little bit easier. So that's the first thing. I would recommend get one of those. Second thing I learned, I have the right type of saw to cut aluminum. It's a soft metal, and you know it catches a lot. It'll get stuck in a normal saw. Like I was using an angle grinder at first, that was taking forever, and then I thought I could use a handsaw, and that didn't work very well either. Tried multiple different types of blades, and it was all taking forever. I did end up getting a miter saw. I rented. With those, you gotta get an aluminum cutting blade. So that blade, I used it for a day and a half, and then the teeth started breaking off of it. But that did work really, really well. The cuts on it were super clean, straight, no complaints on that. But I don't really have space to place a miter saw, so I looked at other options. What I did end up with at the very end of my build was picking up one of these bandsaws. Okay, so this was really easy and not as easy as the miter saw, but the bandsaw really helped cut the cutting time in half. Clean cuts, straight cuts, I would definitely recommend that one for you guys. So the very last thing that I would recommend is try to get fresh new aluminum. I tried to use a lot of the old aluminum that I had, which was a lot of cost savings, but it also meant that I had to sand everything down and drill out all those rib nuts and rivets, which also added to my time working on the boat. So if you have the opportunity to get some clean, fresh aluminum, definitely do that. All right, so those were the 3 tips for you guys. Get a rivet gun, bandsaw or a miter saw, and use clean aluminum. So thank you guys for joining us. We will see you next time. So that's it for the framing video. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments. Make sure you subscribe if you want to follow along with this boat build. We'll see you guys next time.